Okay, so on your backs, on that nice mat with a blanket the long way on your mat, we will begin and I would like you to first just arrive, feel your body on the blanket, on the mat. Where do you connect? And then begin to observe the breath. Observe your breath as you're lying down and feel, what does it have a taste? Where is it traveling into your body? Is there a texture? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it easy or hard? Just feel the breath, be aware of it. You don't have to change anything to begin with. Then begin to lengthen the breath into an even ratio breath, or perhaps a longer exhale. Inhale and exhale. You can do it to your own count of 4 or 5. And just find that long breath. The exhale, exaggerating the exhale, is a technique for quieting the parasympathetic nervous system, easing the fight or flight anxiety reaction that we all may be having to everything that's still going on. And also become aware of those areas that are vulnerable and that tend to have tension. And oftentimes those are between the belly and kind of the forehead. That includes the chest and the neck and the shoulders and the jaw, all those areas. And for that tension area, I often recommend the breath, where you take your breath up through the belly and up into the upper chest and allow your upper chest to widen, your shoulders to move away from each other on the inhale. And with your exhale, feel that length, that width, the breath continuing as you settle and relax your shoulders on the ground. So take a few breaths in that pattern, really bringing it up through those areas where so commonly we add tension and store it. And widening the chest, then with your exhale, feeling more relaxation as the shoulders settle in that wide open position to the ground. Take 2 more breaths in that area with that breath, the breath of the breath. In one of the yoga classes I was doing online this week, a woman at the beginning said she would like to work with anxiety. She was feeling very anxious, which I think is a normal response to life right now. Anxiety can be a problem when it overtakes our lives, but it also is a normal response. Just as stress is part of life, anxiety can be part of life, but it's not helpful. It's not helpful. And releasing anxiety is a really powerful tool of yoga. And my teacher, that was my teacher Kat at that point, suggested a breath for releasing anxiety. So let's try that one as well. This time, now as you're breathing, take the breath deeply into your belly and maybe even farther down into your legs, into your feet. And as you release your breath, feel every connection you have in the ground, to the ground. This is the anxiety breath is a very deep belly breath and a sensation of feeling your support, the ground around you. Where are you now? Anxiety often takes us to a different place. We're worried about something that's outside of the immediate environment and our immediate situation. So that grounding, that literal feeling the ground and knowing the ground is there supporting you can be very helpful. Continue with that breath working to release anxiety. Reaching deep into you and letting yourself feel that deep release into the ground. Feel the ground supporting you and the deep breath into your center and your core and your support system of your feet and your legs and your back. So these are two different breaths we can use all during class. And if in class you can't find one of these breaths, if you feel breathless or tension in your breathing, it's time to pull back. It's time to come partially out of a pose, completely out of a pose. Take a moment for yourself to center and rest and ground. Remember, child's pose, a seated pose, shavasana, a seat in a chair somewhere near you is fine too. Whatever helps you recenter, find your breath, and come back whenever you're ready. I'm not there with you, so you are in charge of being kind and practicing ahimsa, self-care within the class. And I know most of you are very, very good at this. So I'm happy to have you here today. We're going to start a little bit of activity on the ground, and you can keep that blanket under you. Keep your consciousness of your breath as we move into motion. Bend your knees and place your feet on the floor, knees up, pointing up towards the ceiling, and become aware of the pelvis on the ground, the lower back of your hips and the lower back, and begin to just rock back and forth a little bit on those bones. You can take it in a circular motion or a back and forth motion. Feel how your pelvis is today. Take your knees into your chest. It doesn't have to be a big pull, just a little bit, and draw some circles with your knees. Feeling the edge of the sacrum if you can find it. It may be deep in your muscles and flesh, but you can connect with that. And the blanket gives us a little extra padding today to be kind. Those of you who have talked about your lower back, keep these motions gentle and really feel what's going on, really observe. Does that feel good or does that not feel good? It should feel good. If it's causing more pain, that is not right for you today. And you can move back to a different motion that felt better, felt okay, not adding to your pain or stress. Then put those feet on the floor again. And let's do the same rocking back and forth across our shoulders. You can take your elbows up and just roll from side to side across the back of your shoulders. If you have a tender neck, you can just stay looking at the ceiling. The neck does not have to move. If it feels good to take your head and neck with you, you can. Feel what's going on back in those shoulders. I like to lift my head into a little bit of a crunch and feel this motion lower down in my back, just under my shoulder blades. And you can support your head while you're doing this if that helps. Because there's a place just under the shoulder blades that can be tense also. So keep the explore this motion for a moment. And you can actually take this in a circle as well by doing a gentle crunch towards one leg and then the other, and then rolling back across your shoulders. That might be too much for some of you. Some of you might find it a nice release. And feel how that goes. And you can take that both directions as well. Circular motion clockwise and then counterclockwise. This is a little bit of waking up the abs if you're doing the full circular motion because of that little bit of lift. Getting some heat going, some energy in there. And then release the head and the shoulders to the ground, leaving the knees tented towards the ceiling. And take just a breath to feel what happened there, to center yourself. Begin to absorb that first motion. How is it? How did that work? Everything okay? And take your hands and place them on your thighs down towards where your legs bend at the hip joint, and with the belly engaged, push away so the shoulders can rise a little bit. Straighten your arms, pushing away, lengthening the spine, tractioning the spine here. Keeping the belly working towards the floor. And release that motion. We'll do some pelvic tilts here. So start easy with the breath in, the belly rises, and the lumbar curve lifts. Tender lower backs here, be very observant. This should feel good, should be helpful. If not, modify it. And then press the belly down and allow the breath to exhale. So inhale and exaggerate that lumbar curve a little bit. Exhale, press the belly to the floor, abs engage. The lumbar curve will disappear or almost disappear. And keep this motion going. If this is already a little bit of a challenge and a work for you because of a tender back, this is where you're working, and you can lower and increase the intensity as you are responding to your body. If your back is feeling good with this, you can begin to exaggerate it a little bit. You can, on the exhale, add a little bit of a crunch. On the inhale, you can lift up towards the chest. We'll do 3 or 4 of these. And now release the head and place the arms back on the floor. This time, as you exhale, you can, as you inhale, lift the arms up over the head. And as you exhale, allow the arms to come down the sides of the torso. So inhale, the belly lifts, the arm lifts, and your arms come towards the ground. They may not go all the way, that's fine. As you exhale, lower the arms and engage the belly. Same pelvic tilt. Then as we warm up here, you may feel like with the inhale, adding a little lift in the hips, pressing the feet into the floor, come into a little bit of a bridge pose, exhaling, the arms come down. You can move at your own speed here. This can be a little bit quicker if you're feeling peppy. It can be really, really, really slow if you're guarding or paying attention to a sore spot. But take the motion as full as you want it to be today, as full as feels good to you, and see if you can find some joy, some grace and fluidity here. You can be inspired by Keith's aquatic background and picture yourself as kelp waving in the deep beds of the ocean, or the tall grass that's just beginning to bloom, waving in the wind. And we'll do 2 more of those. And then land on the ground. And let's take a full body stretch. Straighten your legs. Flex the feet first and reach overhead. Long stretch through the body. You can take any little variations you like here, stretching one side or the other, a cross body stretch. Then release it all. Release it all and just lay with your arms long. You may find it more comfortable to come towards a goalpost or a cactus position with the elbows bent. And give yourself 2 long breaths here. We're going to roll over onto our sides. So if you have a tender neck today, have a blanket handy and bring it over. You can roll onto either side. I suggest rolling onto the side that allows you to see the screen so you can watch me if you'd like. And you can use your arm to support your head. If you have a tender neck, you may want to add a blanket here to find the position that your neck is comfortable. We're going to come to a position on the ground where your head is comfortably supported and your legs are long and straight. You can keep this top arm in front of you as a balance point. And I'd like you to energize and enliven your body here rather than relaxing onto the floor. Energize and flex the feet as if you are standing up. And this becomes right here a little bit of work, abdominal work, because just as in a standing pose on one leg, our knees and ankles are constantly flexing and adjusting to help us balance. Right now, the belly and the lower back are doing the same thing, and even into the hips a bit. We are flexing and adjusting to find a way to balance. And if you want to challenge your balance, you can take that arm off the front. You can just lift it for a moment, or you can straighten it long, or you can even take it overhead. If your neck is really strong, you can try taking both arms overhead. So for a moment, just experiment with this balance. If you roll onto your front or your back, it's not a long way, so you should be okay. Now let's take that front arm back as a balance point and go ahead and bend that bottom leg. The leg that's closest to the floor is going to bend for a really nice, secure balance. Now we're almost in a fetal position. Pardon me. But we're going to do a little work here anyway. So strengthen and straighten that top leg. Let that top leg come out. And experiment with bringing that leg in towards the belly and the chest and straightening. This is a little bit of abdominal work. So see if you can feel yourself engaging the lower abs as you work here. And if you want to, you can add that top arm into the motion to bring them both together. I'm going to do 5 more of these. And you can come with me, or you can stop when you have had enough. And finish. And just because we're in this position now, we are going to do a couple of more little bits of work. First, I'd like you to lift the top leg and straighten, and then point the toes towards the ground. And allow that leg to lower and lift. This will be a very small motion. We're working that outside glutes of the hip. This is sort of an old Jane Fonda trick. Yeah, just small bounces here, a little bit of up and down motion. You may begin to feel some warmth and action in the outer hip. It may cramp. If it cramps, go ahead and stop. We will stretch this out afterwards, don't worry. And now relax that top leg and straighten the lower leg again. You have your arm for balance, and the bottom leg can have a little bit of a bend. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. We're going to stretch the front of this leg. You're going to bend your top leg and reach back and find whatever you can find. If you have a belt or a strap, you can use this to hook around your foot, which may be helpful. Or you can grab your pants. That's a great idea. If you can reach your foot, that's ideal. And we start by lining the top, this top thigh up with the straight torso, seeing if we can get that leg long, the thigh long, and in line with the torso. And if you can do that and you find a stretch, or if you find a stretch just moving towards that position, that's excellent, and that may be the perfect place for you to work. If you're still looking to find some stretch, you can pull that heel towards your bum, and that will probably engage that stretch for you. When you find that sensation of stretch and release, you can send your breath there. Engage your breath as if it's a magic elixir, a magic potion that can flow into that leg, bringing warmth and release and ease, letting that long, strong quadricep and those hardworking hip flexors open and ease and lengthen. And release that stretch. We're going to roll over to the other side. If you are comfortable listening to my voice and you just want to roll over and look away from your screen, that's fine. I am going to push myself up and flip around so I'm still facing the screen for those of you who are visual rather than auditory and are going to want to be watching. So take your other side and we'll go through that sequence so that we're balanced. Now, I find that on this side, I want my blanket under my head, where on the other side, my neck was just fine. So you may experience a similar thing. At one side of your neck is more, has a little bit more strength than the other. So it's interesting, and you may want to pay attention to that later today. So if we'll start with the balance. We start with the balancing and engaging the abs to help this balance happen. And it may be tippy, it may be easy, there may be a little humor involved. If you can balance with your arm in front of you, lifting it gently, taking all the way up, or taking it overhead for a kind of extended side pose. Engaging your muscles, lighting up, using some isometric strength to find yourself with the same energy you would have standing on the ground through the body, making this happen. And you can release from there, and we will bend the bottom leg and do those little crunches, either just with the leg or with the leg and arm. And see if while you're doing this work, you're going to be using several different muscle groups, but see if you can be aware of engaging your abs as you do this. And I'm going to do 3 more. You finish when you finish. And you can bend that leg, have that leg in front of you, and engage that top hand for balance. We're going to straighten the leg now and lift it and do our tribute to Jane Fonda with some little pulsers engaging this outer side of your bum. Like I say, this may cause a cramp. That's a good reason to finish with this exercise if you find a cramp. The warmth and heat is that muscle working. That's not a problem. It's what Jane used to say, go for the burn. I'm sure you remember that if you were a Jane Fonda fan. And we'll do just a couple more. And then with this top, the bottom leg can still help you balance. And we're going to do the stretch along the top of the quad. So reach back and grab your pants or your foot or your ankle, or perhaps a strap, and find that top thigh aligning with the torso, and where in that motion, if you need to bring your foot towards your bum, where are you finding that nice long stretch and release along that front of the thigh? You may feel it all the way towards your knee. Use your breath. And release that leg. We're going to come to a seated pose and then to hands and knees. So push yourself up, that top arm. Reorient to gravity in a different position. I'm getting warm, so I'm shedding a layer. And from the seat, it's one of the easiest ways to roll forward on the hands and knees. Now, we still have this blanket on the mat, but if you are on a hardwood floor or your knees are particularly tender, you may want to add another layer of padding. So take care of yourself in that way. As we come to hands and knees, we're going to, first of all, just find the position. Take a moment to settle. And of course, you can begin a little bit of a cat-cow motion to warm up the back in the same action as the pelvic tilt, but it's a little bit richer and deeper. So take care of yourself here. If this is good, enjoy it. And then begin to bring yourself into a strong hands and knees position where you're combining those two actions. And I actually forgot one of the things I really wanted to do. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to come back with your legs out in front of you into a seated staff pose, Dandasana. And I really want to add this because of what I did to you with that Jane Fonda work. You can lean back on your hands. If it's sometimes a seated position, just the staff pose may be a big stretch on the back of your legs, maybe too much. If so, take your weight back a little bit onto your hands and be comfortable. What we're going to do is do a seated figure four position. We do figure four a lot, but this time we're taking it from the seated position. So take one leg, I'm using my right, and bend it on top of the other. And you have a little bit of, there may be a stretch right here for some, just working the leg away from yourself. If not, take the sole of the foot the leg that's straight onto the floor, so both legs are bent. And here, maybe your stretch. Again, you just work that top knee away from yourself a little bit. That's probably most of us right here are feeling the stretch. If you need a little more, you just inch that bottom foot back towards the body, which will bring the leg closer. Wherever you find the beginning of your stretch, experiment with taking the legs back and forth. Just rocking on your pelvis there, rocking on your sitting bones back and forth, and see how that affects the stretch. You can move slowly. It may be a very small action. Maybe within a very small movement, you find a lot of effect. It may take more action. And just see what's going on in there with that. And if you find a particular place that really feels like you're getting some lovely release, just hold that for, let's say, 3 breaths. So find a spot you like, and you can keep moving if you prefer, but many of us will want to stay here and work into that one place. So use your breath here. And to get out of this pose, you just straighten that bottom leg and release, and take a breath to feel what's going on in those legs. Take a breath to sit up tall, and then take the other leg on top. So we get both sides. You may find your stretch right away with this position. You may need to adjust a little bit to find the best stretch for yourself. So on the outside of the bent top leg. And once you find that stretch, experiment again with this. It's often called a flossing motion, moving back and forth, just like we would floss our teeth. Feeling what's going on. It's so interesting how different the two sides will be in our bodies. And when you find that place that's particularly delicious and efficacious, hold that spot for a moment and take some deep breaths, pouring your breath into the sensation that you found. And when you feel like you've done about the same on both sides, you can release the pose by straightening the bottom leg. And again, let yourself feel the legs here. While we're here, while we're seated, I'm going to add a little bit of neck work. So you can take a block or a blanket under yourself in a Sukhasana, an easy seat. Some of you may need more support than that. And this is a perfect time you can sit in a chair to do this. If finding a comfortable seat is difficult, seat on the floor is difficult, a chair works just as well, because we're going to be trying to a little bit of release with the necks. And let's start with some shoulder shrugs. So take them up and back, and up and back. And recently we talked about that imagery of watching the nature films where the female lion is stalking through the jungle and seeing how her shoulder blades are just liquid on her back. And that's a nice image to keep in your mind while you're doing this. And you can go slowly and settle them. And then once you're settled, examine your posture a little bit. See if you have your belly engaged so that your back of your pelvis is relaxed downward. We're not pooching the ribs and belly out, but everything is integrated and strong, lifting up. Let the shoulder blades relax down the back. And the head, our poor heavy head on that delicate neck, lift the head up. Imagine your head was a rectangle. This back edge lifts up towards that back edge of the room where the ceiling and the wall come together. Straightening the back of the neck, letting the chin come back to a relaxed position. The ears are towards in line with the shoulders. And breathe here. Let's take the arms up with that breath, all the way to Anjali Mudra, bringing the sky to your heart. You can use an audible breath. Now that you're home and quiet, you can make all the sighing sounds you want. Relax the hands onto the thighs. And I'd like to start with a supported release. So take the right arm up and bend it and put it over your head. So now as you release your neck, keeping your back lifted, the shoulders relaxed, going to release the head. Just gently let the head go. It may go a very, very small way. This hand here is not pushing or pulling. What we're doing is creating a cradle. So there's not that fear of your heavy head all of a sudden putting all that weight on these tense trapezius muscles. So just find a release with, let's stretch the opposite arm out long. And you can move your chin up and down, your head back and forth till you find a little bit of release there. Don't go for pain, especially if your neck has been bothering you. You want to go for just that sense of, ooh, yeah, there's a place. As if you're giving yourself a massage and finding that spot that's a little tender and beginning to explore it. Use your breath here to pour into that sensation. Then to come out, let that cradling arm lift your head back up and open the arm. And a breath, and we'll do the same on the other side. First of all, find a way to cradle your head in that arm. Before you start the neck release, the opposite arm can lengthen out to extend the line of the stretch. And then let your head melt and relax. Just let the work of the neck go. Let your head hang heavy as much as you possibly can. It's a difficult thing to do sometimes, but you're working towards it. Letting that head relax, and then experiment with moving the head and the chin to find a nice release, a nice feeling of ease and opening. And let your breath fill that place. Your arm that's cradling your head will help the head come up so you don't immediately stress the neck. Now from that tall position, allow your chin to come gently forward. Then take your right hand and reach around to the left side. And just for a moment, explore with your hand into that trapezius muscle. You can tilt the head a little bit to the left. Sometimes that helps, or a little bit towards the hand that's working, whichever hand is working on your neck. So keep the chin in, tilt the head a little bit, and just let your fingers work around in there and feel what's going on. Remember that when we're not going out for a massage, even if you never go for a massage, you can give yourself some of this work. You could do this with a little bit of oil in the evenings when you're sitting on the couch relaxing. You can take your hand and lower your chin and let your head relax towards the shoulder. Keep the chin tucked in. Just work in there and find those little places and do what feels good to them. Then let your hand bring your head back up, and we'll do the same on the other side. Let your chin come to the chest. And then as your hand comes up, you can relax your head a little bit towards the shoulder as well and work into that muscle. Again, you may feel that they're extremely different. This is one of the places where the asymmetry of our body really shows up. one side may be loose and not painful, and the other side may be just really tight and sore. So you may want to spend a little more time when you're working this on your own. You spend some more time on that sore side. And then let the head come up with some help so you're not tensing your neck. Okay, now let's go back to the hands and knees work. So we already did some cat-cows in this position, but you may want to resettle yourself and get your gravitational orientation back. And we're going to do a little bit of release on the forearms. We have been paying some attention to the hands and forearms because of gardening work. But today, let's start with the hands. Just roll up onto your fingers of the right hand and then roll over your fingers and experiment with what happens if you bend your wrist so that your palm is facing towards your body and you're stretching the back of your hand with that motion. Open the hand wide. And then as you come up, fist the hand. Try that again. Roll over the fist and then open the hand wide. Over the fist and open the hand wide. And then place that hand flat on the floor. We'll do the same with the other hand. Make a fist and roll over it. Feeling the stretch through the back of your wrist and roll back. 3 times, wide hand. And we have another way to do that where you're going to come onto your fists, and the fists are going to be facing the long edges of your mat. They're kind of facing out here. And this is a stretch from my friend Elizabeth, and what she tells me is this is like you're holding an ice cream cone in your fist. And you roll over your fist as if you're crushing your ice cream. And then back. So you crush those ice cream cones. And back. And crush those ice cream cones. And back. And from there, we're going to come towards Virasana, which is the seated position, back onto your heels, but you can use a block or 2 blocks to come back and settle yourself. And then brush back and forward across the wrist, just gently flipping. You probably remember cricket, which is a pose where you take your back leg and saw across your calf muscle to release that muscle. We're going to do the same thing across our forearms. So you can come forward, you probably come up off your block. And let's start. I'm going to start with my right arm flat on the ground. And I'm going to take my left arm across it with the palm facing up. And from here, I'm going to press down and across that muscle on the top of my arm. You will not need to go all the way to your wrist. In fact, you're going to stop about halfway, which is where that muscle, the fat part of the muscle, becomes smaller. And just feel what's going on in there. This is another one that would be done. You could do with some oil if you had a lot of time to play with it and release. This is a really nice way to release that forearm, the top forearm muscle, which in gardening or many kinds of home work around the house, hammering, sawing, there's a lot of tension on that muscle. If you find one really nice place, just stop and push down and let your breath work it. And let's work the same magic on the other side. So take the other arm flat on the floor and pressing down into the hand and forearm for support. Bend the opposite arm with the palm facing up and begin to saw. Saw is a kind of a verb, brutal verb. Massage back and forth across that muscle and feel if you can create a release there. Feel if you can find the tension and make something happen. And when you find that spot of sensation or special need, stop there. Work it for a moment by just pressing down into it. And let go of that. Back onto the hands and knees. From here, we're going to take, you can move your block if you still have a block there. Take the right foot back. And as we begin this, just give a stretch to the calf and the back of that leg. Then roll onto the inside edge of your foot. We're coming towards a side plank variation. So you're going to be balancing on this bent knee. You can rotate the foot out away from you a little bit to help create a stable platform here. And first bring your front hand, your hand that is away from this angle, this plane of action we're creating. For me, it's the right hand. I have my right foot back. So it's the same hand as your foot that's extended. And lift it onto your hip and rotate the chest open to the front of your room. So from here, you're getting that long edge of your back foot and a line that goes all the way from your foot, and it can come all the way up to your extended hand. If there's room for you, you can take that hand over, that arm over your ear. And this torso, this plane from your groin up to your chest is rotating open to the side angle, a long stretch here. Send your breath into that stretch. And if you're feeling daring and your balance is really good today, you can experiment with lifting that back foot off the floor. And it can come off just a little bit and go down, or it can come up and stay, depending on how your body is today. What's going on for you? So whatever pose is kind of the best pose for you here, just hold it, and we'll do 2 more breaths here. And release the foot to the floor. Open the arm up and back to the floor. We're going to do the same with the left, and you don't have to switch around. You can do it facing away from your computer, but I'm going to switch around for the visual people and take my left leg back, starting with a nice short stretch through the calf and Achilles tendon, pressing the heel away, sending some breath into that back of the leg before I roll the foot onto the instep edge and flatten the foot on the floor. Again, you can rotate this bent leg out like a kickstand to help you balance. Hand can come onto the hip to begin with, and find that big rotation open to the front of the room. And so we have this strong, plane position, 2-dimensional position, like we're a piece of paper, flat. And from here, you can take that arm up. And if you have room in your body, you can take it over the ear. Remember, when we do this motion, you can always bring it through the front. For some reason, sometimes that's an easier way for the shoulder to move rather than this rotation the sideways rotation. It's like you can experiment with that and see how it works for you, especially when your shoulder's sore. It's a good thing to remember. And then if you want to challenge yourself, you can experiment with lifting that foot. And we'll hold this for 3 breaths. Then take the hand back to the floor, and we will sink back onto the heels for a moment in child's pose. Heels towards the bum. You want to stick a blanket. If your heels don't reach all the way, a blanket in between your knee and in between the thigh and the calf is really comfortable. So breathe here. Feel your breath flooding into the lower back, widening that lower back. Releasing whatever tension has been created there. And roll up. And we're going to come to standing now. We can remove this top blanket. So we'll take a moment to reconnoiter and let ourselves change to another position. And you can meet me when you're ready at the front of your mat. Clear some space there. And we are going to have a very short standing sequence. We are only going to do our balancing pose because I spent a lot of time on the floor today and we have a short class. So find your support. It could be the wall, it could be a chair or a counter, whatever works in your personal space. We're all in some strange places right now. Well, some very familiar places, actually. We worked on eagle pose last week. We're going to continue that. So take the standing leg, which is going to be the one closest to your support. We're going to start by bending both knees, then lifting the leg that is not the standing leg and crossing it onto the standing leg. This was where we landed last week. And this is the eagle landing rather than the eagle soaring. So here's a balance. And if you want to just experiment with lifting the other hand to Anjali Mudra, that's a great place to be. If you want to move on with the position, the opposite arm from leg crosses on top of the 2 arms. And you can take your arms to your shoulders. Or if you're comfortable there, you can take the backs of the hands together. We'll stop with that today. Remember that leg that's on top, you can drop the toe if you need to catch your balance. Sometimes that helps. But it's a compression pose, so press the arms and legs together. Wherever you are, wherever your balance is working, press them together. It's like the eagle poised on the cliff, tense and ready to swoop down and release. And the joy of a compression pose is the release, because the release feels so good after you've been pressing together. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Pour the weight into the foot that's closest to your support. Bend both legs. The outside leg is light. Bring it up and wrap it around. Some people even have room to wrap it an extra time. Your foot can hook. So here's a place to balance. This is a great start. Perfect place if this is right for you today. If you want to experiment with the arms a little further, you can cross the opposite arm from your outside leg around your shoulders. And if it's possible for you to lift your arms with back of the hands together, you can do that. Wherever you are, again, compress, really pull together. Feel that action. Your shoulders really wrap off the back. And breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Remember, looking for a focal point as well. And then it all releases at once, and the blood flows back into your body. So let's take just a moment, standing in mountain, since we had such a short standing sequence today. Feel the strength and the height of your body. Take a couple of those grounding breaths where the breath flows into your belly, through your legs, up to the feet, and really feel the ground under you. And then with grace and control, we're coming to the floor. And we are coming all the way to Shavasana right away. So if you need a blanket under your head, rolled up under your knees, if you need something to keep you warm, take care of that right now. And this is going to be a very short Shavasana on this class. So if you know you need and want and crave a long Shavasana, you can right now say namaste and either turn off or mute your computer and stay for as long as you need. Otherwise, get yourself comfortable and we will have a short Shavasana, and then we will have time for a chat again if you want to do that. But you can always chat with me next week again. I kind of recommend getting a longer Shavasana than this time allows us. So find your place on the floor. If you're at home and you have a good place for legs up and you like that, that's always welcome. If you want a rolled blanket under your knees, that's the place to be. And release your arms to the floor, the feet fall out. Check in with whatever you found at the beginning of class when we were working those breaths. And if one of those breaths, either the breath of breath or the breath work that was aimed at anxiety, the deep belly breath and grounding breath, either of those really appeal to you, begin your Shavasana with a couple of deep breaths in that fashion. And then release control of your breath and let yourself be still. Let your body take in what it's been through. Integrate those motions and those emotions into your being. And find your inner stillness. Now, if you have time and you feel like it will benefit you, please stay in Shavasana for a while. That was very short, but if you need to move on with your day, take a deep breath. Let your breath be big. Do what you need to reactivate your body and roll into fetal position on the right side. Take a full breath there before you rise to a seated position with compassion and gentleness to your body. And join me in a seat for a moment.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste. I will stop recording and open to feedback if anybody wants to talk to me here.